And let me tell you guys straight up, if you're going to be offended by this video, because I'm going to go all in, I'm going to name drop, I'm going to name some names, and I'm going to tell you guys my opinion on why I think these guys are just intellectually masturbating. Then turn off the damn video. It's that simple. If you guys want to get butt hurt and say, well, no, brother, you know what you're talking about. What are you doing? Huh? What you doing? You ain't doing nothing. Please stop it. Please stop it with those dumb ass retorts. If you don't know my history, I suggest you take my history. All right. But I'm going to talk about intellectual masturbators in the Black conscious community. Some of you guys may or may not know I've been a part of the quote unquote conscious community. All right. Back in 2013, that's when I first, got conscious, if you will, and just started doing a lot of things, going to lectures, reading different books. Got to the point where I was bringing in people to do lectures like Dr. Umar Johnson several times. I've interviewed Dr. Umar Johnson, stuff like that. Started bringing in people like Dr. Kaba Kabane, aka Booker T. Coleman. I was doing screenings, which I still do. I still do screenings like Hidden Colors, like Urban Kryptonite, a whole bunch of different movies I've done, independent movies by people classified as Black, and to try to just share the knowledge. I've been doing that since 2013. But this is what I now know. When I got into the knowledge, when I started studying and stuff like that, I just was like a sponge, just wanted to learn about our history, the truth about all of these holidays and the history of, slavery and, racism, white supremacy, all that kind of stuff, right? I want to just absorb knowledge. I would go on YouTube and just watch hours of lectures and footage. I don't do that now. I don't have time nor the patience. And I consider myself very well studied, and I consider myself also a pretty excellent researcher because I can connect the dots very easily. But I used to do all that stuff, just listen to lectures and go to lectures and read all kinds of different books and stuff like that, man. And I don't do that now. I just, the information that's coming from these guys now, and I'm going to name some names. I'm going to talk about 3 people in particular. Like I said, if you guys are offended, turn off the video. All right. I consider these guys intellectual masturbators. All right. First guy I'm going to talk about is Dr. Umar Johnson. This guy is a great orator. Can't take that away from him. Great orator. Right. Gets very good information. Very good information that he gives out. You know what I'm saying? I bought his book. I bought the book. This book right here. Psycho-Academic Holocaust. Actually, he signed it for me when I was doing his when I was actually recording his lectures and stuff like that. He signed it and everything. I read the book. Good book, right? But what Dr. Umar Johnson is doing, he's just rehashing information. That's nothing new what he's doing. It's nothing new at all what he's doing. See, what you got to understand, the point of this video, family, is because I'm saying that these guys are just intellectual masturbators. It's what I'm saying is, yes, they do give out good information, but at the end of the day, that information that they're doing, the information that they are disseminating amongst the people, it has not translated into the real world based off what they're doing, in my opinion. Okay, that's why I'm labeling these guys intellectual masturbators, because that's what they're just doing, intellectually masturbating. But going back to Dr. Umar Johnson, like I said, he does give out good information, but his information is not new, it's not groundbreaking. And, with me, if you guys follow me for any significant amount of time, I tell you guys where I get my information from, where I get my sources from. I always say I reference Neely Fuller Jr. a lot. I reference Dr. Francis Cress Wilson a lot. I reference Dr. Claude Anderson a lot. I reference Dr. Amos Wilson a lot, just to name a few. That's who I reference the most, right? I study those people the most, right? A guy like Dr. Umar Johnson, from my understanding, he does not give away his sources. Where does he get his information from, right? Well, I did the digging myself, and I found out that, like I said, what he says is just rehashing what somebody else already said. Do you guys understand and know anything about this guy right here? His name is Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu. All right. I had his page up. I'll bring him up real quick so you guys can see. But this guy has been he's saying the same exact stuff that Dr. Umar Johnson's been doing, but he did it way before. All right, way before. Right, this guy right here, Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu, right? I've already watched this video several times, but this video is called "Countering the Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys," right? Destroy Black Boys, which is basically part of the title of his book, War Against Black Boys. Destroy, war. Those are the same synonym words. But the gist of what Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu is saying is basically what Dr. Umar Johnson is preaching about: the war on black boys, the educational system, white supremacy, right? What we need to do to combat racism, how we need to, be economically empowered, how we need to educate our young boys, how we need to educate our families, our black families, how we build our black family structure. All of this stuff has been said and tried by Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu. So at the end of the day, what you guys need to do, all of these new guys, referencing this information, and I'm gonna get into Brother Polite, and I'm gonna get into what he talks about and stuff like that. And I'm also talk about Young Pharaoh as well in a minute. But point is, family, study the primary sources of where they get their information from. Don't be bamboozled and fooled by people who have great charisma and they can speak well. Dr. Umar Johnson, in my opinion, is just a black pastor in the conscious community. That's all he is. He's great charisma. Reminds me of those guys in the Baptist church that be huffing and puffing. And yes, sir. And the Lord saw the light. He helped Joshua fight the battle of Jericho. Those kind of dudes, right? All the charisma, huffing and puffing. You know what I'm saying? I never understood that, man. Like, why these dudes, huffing and puffing, especially these pastors, huffing and puffing, trying to, bring out the message in the Bible or whatever. I never got into that. I'm like, why can't you just talk regular, nigga? Why can't you just talk normal and just say what you got to say? You know what I'm saying? But like I said before, man, I cannot work. The place where I'm at now, is knowledge-wise, I would say never, but I'm not in a place where I'm going to sit and watch a guy or watch a debate, if you will, and I'll get into debates a little bit later also, for hours. I'm not going to do that. I'll be seeing people on YouTube doing Google Hangouts to intellectually masturbate for hours about just whatever random insignificant topic. Like, I remember the Kemet on trial debate on Sonetta. They had a Google Hangout between Amara Squad and some other guys or something like that. And the hangout was literally 6 hours. It was crazy. It was absolutely bonkers. Like I couldn't see myself doing that. I mean, talking to dudes about just insignificant information is just really pointless. I could never do that. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, study the primaries. What Dr. Umar Johnson is saying is nothing groundbreaking, nothing new. I've already talked about, his school that he wants to build, which has not been built yet. He's been collecting money for all of these years, and there's still no school. Now he wants to put the school in Africa and that kind of stuff, man. Study the guys who've already have an independent black school, like Marcus Klein, right? Like a guy like him. Marcus Klein has his own school called Freedom Home Academy in Chicago. Excellent school, man. Great school. There's so many other people. Like I'm just naming him as an example. But Marcus Klein, and I met Marcus Klein a couple years ago. Great dude. Study guys like him. I mean, these guys like him don't get enough credit. He's under the radar, but Marcus Klein, man, in terms of just homeschooling or just independent schooling system, hands down, one of the best, if not the best, out there in terms of independent black schools for children, for the youth. Hands down. Right? But, like I said, Dr. Umar Johnson, what he says and what he talks about in terms of the educational system for our children, in terms of racism, in terms of the injustices within this system that we live in. It's all been said before. It's just rehashed and remixed in today's age to make it sound pretty, to make it, come out from a great orator like Dr. Umar Johnson. But study the primary. Study guys like Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu. Right? That's my point with this particular video. Study the primaries. Right? Now, guys like Brother Polite, I've made, when I was in the conscious circle, I made several videos talking about him. I was contemplating on actually bringing him down to do a lecture. I've actually got in contact with one of his wives via email, try to ask him for his retainer rate to come down for a lecture. And they were asking for, at the time, which I'm pretty sure the price has changed significantly, but at the time, I asked for a lecture fee and his retainer fee, and they said it was like, if I remember correctly, it was like $1,700. So I will have to pay $1,700 and pay for his flight and hotel and all that stuff, and that's actually pretty damn cheap compared to guys like Dr. Umar Johnson and stuff like that. I was cheap at the time, and that was back in 2013 when I was trying to bring Brother Polite down for a lecture, right? But Brother Polite also, he comes from the school of Nuwapians. He comes from the cloth of a Dr. Malachi Z. York, right? So another guy who's a great orator, very charismatic. But again, you got to understand and study where he gets his information from. And I've already talked about his information as far as status correction, which is a misnomer. You can't correct your status in the system of racism, white supremacy. And it doesn't, and to put it quite simple, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's a scam. And that's it. That is it. But like I said, study the primaries. Study where he gets his information from, right? And don't be fooled by guys who are charismatic and that can speak well and that can move a crowd. This is not a concert, right? Just give me the information and I'll go ahead and try to, decipher it myself and study it and break it down like hunter-gatherer style, right? Get the information that I need and discard what I don't. And that's what you guys need to do, right? And like I said, guys like Brother Polite, guys like Dr. Umar Johnson, very charismatic, but you got to understand and study their primaries. Where are they getting their information from? right? And, another guy that I've also talked about in the past, and, when I'm talking about these guys, family, like, I've completely separated myself from the so-called black conscious community. I'm not part of it anymore. I do my own thing. You know, I come on YouTube and what I try to do is I try to offer suggestions and give you guys, some things that you can go ahead and research yourself about this system, about the society we live in, which is racism, white supremacy. I try to break it down and I just try to give you guys, suggestions where you guys can research it on your own. But I'm nowhere. I'm never said I'm a doctor or a lecturer or stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? I'm not one of those guys at all. I'm not going to be sitting here and trying to do 3-4 hour lectures. I don't have the time or the patience at all. You know what I'm saying? And that my most recent lecture that I went to was actually last year, back in 2016. And this is no shot at the guy at all. I'm still a fan of this guy, but David Banner had a lecture last year in Miami, and it was cool lecture, but his information was nothing new at all. All the information that he was talking about was nothing new. It got to a point where I think towards the end, and I've talked about this before. I actually did a review on his lecture. Just go back and look at my older videos. I've done a review on his lecture, but he got to a point where at the end of his lecture, he was talking about, well, you know what, family? I'm going to drop a bomb on you guys. I'm going to talk about religion in my next lecture. My next lecture series, I'm going to talk about religion. I'm going to talk about Christianity. And I'm going to bring you guys something that you've never heard before. And I'm paraphrasing, but this is what he was basically trying to say. He was like, I'm going to bring to you guys some new information. Get ready for this. It's called the Council of Nicaea. I was like, dude, I've been knew about that. That's so old. Do you even know about the 21 ecumenical church councils? Like, I've been knew about the Council of Nicaea and all that stuff. That's nothing new. So, like I said, man, these guys who present this information, they're just rehashing information from other people, from other sources. That's all they're doing. You know what I'm saying? That's all they're doing. Which brings me to this guy, Young Pharaoh. Young Pharaoh has a huge cult following, and it gets to the point where it's almost like a Jim Jones-esque type of following, where these guys can say or do anything, and the cult following will just flock and follow what this guy has to say. This guy can literally say, well, aliens are going to come down and we're going to be rescued by the aliens. And then his followers would believe that. And yeah, Young Pharaoh, you already know what it is. We're aliens and they're going to come and get us, and that kind of thing. So Young Pharaoh, I remember there was a time where there was a Google Hangout. And I forget which topic it was they were talking about, but Young Pharaoh was basically talking about aliens, and he was challenged about where you get your sources from and stuff like that. And this guy literally Googled the information. He Googled his information. It got to a point where people were making fun of him by saying what he's doing is not scholarship, it's Google-ship, because all his information is just Googled through Google's infrastructure and their servers, right? And he comes back with no primaries at all, right? And that's he's kind of like the new age guy of quote unquote lecturers, if you want to call him a lecturer. I mean, it is what it is. So, but that's just a small example, family of guys who I think are just intellectual masturbators. Again, study where they're getting their information from. A guy like Young Pharaoh is kind of hard because he doesn't really have any primaries as far as from what I know. All he does is Google. All he does is Google his information. So, you know, it's not hard to Google your information at all to get your references and stuff like that. It's not hard at all. But at the end of the day, go back into the guys who were in the real black conscious community back in the 70s and the 80s, right? Like I said, guys like Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, Neely Fuller Jr., Amos Wilson, John Henry Clark, Dr. Joseph Ben Jocannon, right? The list goes on and on and on. Ivan Van Sertima, Anthony Browder, you know what I'm saying? The list goes on. Bobby Hemmett, Phil Valentine, Dr. Kaba. Study those guys. Study their information. And study where they get their sources from too. That's what you have to do. Go back into the original source. All right? Don't wean on or don't rely on these guys that are just rehashing information and just intellectually masturbating. And at the end of the day, with the information that you obtain for yourself, it's about what you do with that information, how you're going to use that to empower yourself and empower the people around you. I've been saying that since day one. When you become so-called conscious, what are you going to do with that information for yourself and for your family? How are you going to empower yourself? What are you going to do tangible for yourself and for your family, right? That's what it's about at the end of the day. All right. So those are my thoughts, family, on that. You know, like I said, you know, study the primaries. And once you get the information, empower yourself and empower the people around you. You know, it's not about you doing these 4-hour lectures and you do Google Hangouts and doing debates and stuff like that about, languages or just some insignificant thing that you want to debate about. It's not about that. It's about what you're going to do tangible for yourself and for the people around you. Right? What are you going to create for yourself and for your family with the information that you obtain? That's what it's about at the end of the day. Because if you go right now into any low-income black neighborhood, right, you see what? You see the patterns and conditions of a quote-unquote black community. You see a church on every corner. You see high crime. You see high violence. You see a presence or a lack thereof of so-called police officers, a.k.a. suspected race soldiers. That's the pattern you see. All these churches on every corner. But yet we still are in the condition at the bottom of the totem pole in every statistical category you can think of in terms of black people collectively as a group. Hands down. Right? So anyway, family, those are my thoughts on that. Leave your comments down below. Let me know if you have any other guys that you consider intellectual masturbators. And also, leave down some good sources of people that you rely on for information, like the originators of this stuff, like Dr. Delbert Blair, Dr. Sebi, right? Rest in peace to both. Just stuff like that. Leave your comments down below, family, and let me know what you guys think. All right. Make sure you follow me on social media at The Black Separatist. Both links will be down below in the description. All right, family. Until next time, Chauncey, a.k.a. The Black Separatist, signing out. Peace.